God only knows what you've been through. God only knows what they say about you. God only knows how it's killing you. But there's a kind of love that God only knows. God only knows what you've been through. God only knows what they say about you. But God only knows the real you. There's a kind of love that God only knows.
Welcome to the 28th episode of Your Journey Is Not Over. My name is Tanya Pearson Randolph. This is my own personal journey, and the expressions and opinions are of my own. I own all the rights to my personal journey and to Your Journey Is Not Over, neither to be used, copied, or edited in any way without my consent. It was the middle of summer in 1984, and I had just landed in Honolulu, Hawaii. I was 13 years old, and scared is a complete understatement. I thought about this time in my life over the weekend, and I just can't wrap my head around what could my mom have been thinking. She had a quick fling with this man back in 1970. He was on a leave from the Army, so that's why I assume it was a quick fling. Maybe had seen him a handful of times since then, at least that was my understanding. And to just send me at 13 years old to go live with him for 3 weeks? I had already been so traumatized, and I was molested by 2 different men. So how could you just send me into the unknown like that? A man tapped me on the shoulder and asked if my name was Tanya. That's where this journey to Hawaii and to meet my real dad began. Don't forget, at 13 years old and completely alone. I know it sounds like a Hallmark movie, and for the most part, they end happy and joyous. This wasn't going to end like that. Just giving you a heads up. So yes, my name is Tanya. It was the man I'd seen in the pictures. I quickly, because of being so nervous and scared, introduced that man, who I thought was my real dad, to my guardian angel. They made small talk about the flight, and my guardian angel asked me several times, was I okay? When I finally told him yes, he kissed me on the forehead, and I have never forgotten what he said to me. He said, "You a strong girl. You stay strong. God be with you always." So we set out to get my luggage. Can you imagine how awkward and uncomfortable this was for both of us? No one there to buffer the meeting. I have watched so many shows of exactly this, and it's a hard process to go through so young, and even as an adult, without a mediator, so to speak, someone to soften the meeting, help a young teenager to adjust to this twilight zone I was thrown into merely days prior. I remember sizing him up, and I do remember thinking, I don't look like him. He has brown eyes. I have hazel. Our skin color was not the same. See, in my family, my cousins, even my brother, was and they are fair-skinned, and they have blue eyes or green eyes. I have dark hair, darker skin, and hazel eyes, so I never really looked like anyone in my family. I was the black sheep, so to speak. So I guess just me and how I think. I just thought this man, the stranger that is supposedly my real dad, would be someone I would look alike. An instant bond. That was not the case. Mind you, I'd been through a lot. I was wiser than most my age. I had a voice. I acted older than my age. Surely, I wasn't given a choice on that. I smoked cigarettes and weed daily. I was guarded. Had no clue what to expect the next 3 weeks. I was 5,000 miles away from home, and truthfully, at the mercy of this complete stranger. A feeling of helplessness completely. We eased into small talk, and I remember we got to his townhouse. It was pretty nice. Even though he was in the Army, he lived off base. So I unpacked, and I called my boyfriend. I think he may have called my mom for me. I do remember I didn't have anything at all to say to her. I wasn't happy. Awkward is the only word that comes to my mind now. Who wouldn't feel awkward? I do remember that day that I arrived, or the next day, my brother called, and he was in a complete panic. He had just found out everything and where I was. He was in the Army also, and didn't call home every day, on an average, a couple times a week. Again, this is how fast everything moved. My brother had no clue until I was already in Hawaii. I'm sure he was shocked, and I could hear the panic in his voice. Are you okay? He kept asking me. How did all of this happen in such a short time? He couldn't believe I was made to take that trip alone. He wasn't used to decisions being made about me without him being involved or having some kind of input. Remember, even though he was my big brother, he was also the only constant, the only role model, the only father figure I had my entire life. I do remember he kept apologizing to me and saying if he had have at least known, he could have stopped it. By the time he even found out, that train was already on the tracks and it was rolling. I know my brother, and I know he carried things and felt guilt for things that were beyond his control. I'm quite sure this was one of those things. So essentially, it was trauma for both of us. He felt guilt because he wasn't there to control the situation for me and to protect me. That wasn't his guilt or even his job to carry. That was our mother's job. But somehow she lacked normal mother instincts. Like love, compassion, worry, empathy. Like I said in my last podcast, she was obsessed with this. I had no way out of this nightmare. I was completely helpless. So within days, I had seen the island of Oahu. We did have fun. He was nice, had a sense of humor, was eager to show me the island. We visited Diamond Head. I went into a real life submarine. We went to the Arizona Memorial, which, by the way, was such a tribute and an honor to see. Remember, I was and I am a bookworm, and I love history, so I'd already read about Pearl Harbor, and I definitely knew the importance of the things I was seeing and experiencing. I got to experience the beaches, but the one that sticks out to me is the Black Beach. It was so beautiful. For those of you that have never heard of it, please look it up. Again, it was beautiful. As I remember the third or the fourth day, I made a friend. No shock to anyone that knows me. She was amazing and definitely helped me more than she will ever know. She was a year older than me. Her dad was in the Army or Navy or the Air Force. That part I don't remember. But we just clicked like we had been friends forever. I got to do a lot of stuff with her and her older sister. We swam, we shopped. I got to see Magnum PI, aka Tom Selleck, from a distance in Waikiki. I was with my new friend and her sister eating lunch, and we were on a rooftop restaurant, so I got a really good look at him. That was exciting. I got to go to a football game at the famous Aloha Bowl. My friend's sister had a boyfriend that was a local and also a football player, so we got VIP that whole game. Again, exciting for such a young girl to see all of these things. And I'm going to be completely honest, we were partying a lot too. First time I'd ever had a mixed drink, a Long Island iced tea, was in Hawaii. Before this trip, I had never drank. I had only smoked. So looking back, this is where the drinking started for me. Another way to escape my emotions, my fears, and my trauma. And of course, all of the adults I grew up around, they were drinkers. Looking back again, I was just following the cycle, repeating generational cycles, doing what is expected of a young girl that's from a broken home. Actually, no parents at all for the majority of my life. And I was so traumatized in so many ways. So, yes, I was falling so hard into that stereotype that I had already been labeled so long ago. This brand new real dad of mine just turned a blind eye. He was a drill sergeant in the Army, and it showed, let me tell you, when it came to the housework. So I did what was expected of me. I adjusted and I adapted like I'd had to do my whole life. I do remember being humiliated by him completely. One day we were on the base and we were shopping at the commissary store. I think that's what it was called. And this soldier, this young guy, and I made eye contact. Again, if you know me, you already know. Eye contact is so important to me, even with complete strangers. So, real quick eye contact and a hello to each other. Nothing out of the way, nothing flirty. I had a boyfriend, so that definitely wasn't the vibe. Next thing I know, Mr. Drill Sergeant is yelling and screaming at this soldier because this soldier looked at his daughter. Humiliating this guy. That was too much for me. I was embarrassed and humiliated not only for myself, but for this soldier. This is where the shift started between me and this real dad. I wasn't used to someone acting like that at all. My mom, anything was possible with her. But my dad, he is a very kind, calm, caring man. Definitely not someone that would get bent out of shape just because someone said hello to me. No, that would never happen. I was adjusting still to my brand new life, and then this came out of nowhere. This complete twilight zone is always how I will describe this whole real dad and trip to Hawaii ordeal. My 13-year-old self was completely out of my element and completely out of my comfort zone. I was almost 5,000 miles away from home. Homesick is an understatement. I was longing for home, longing for my dad, the dad that knew me, understood me, the dad who had put in the time and effort and the work to become my dad. Respect is earned, not a given. This concludes my podcast for today. I want to say thank you to everyone that listens and streams. Your journey is not over. I never stop being grateful. When I started this podcast, I said God will make sure whoever needs to hear it will hear it. Again, thank you to everyone that listens and that also takes their time and reaches out to me. The messages mean a lot to me. Please join me Thursday. And always remember, your journey is not over. God bless.
God only knows what you've been through. God only knows what they say about you. God only knows how it's killing you. But there's a kind of love that God only knows. God only knows what you've been through. God only knows what they say